Hello guys, how are you? I hope so. Now we are going to talk about 2021 Ford Bronco First Edition review, but before I have to ask you to subscribe and leave your like, let's go to the video. Our first taste of the 2021 Ford Bronco was only too brief. Almost a year after the debut, a full day of bopping about within the hills outside Austin, Texas, followed by a morning of trail work revealed a remarkably capable off-roader that sacrificed little or no for its fantastic on-road manners. But that short sample spin within the Bronco left us with many questions. The biggest of these was how would the Bronco fare within the world? Ford's carefully curated route from ATX to its Bronco off-rodeo revealed precious little about the vehicle's highway manners, just how good it really is on rough tarmac, or how tolerable it would be in traffic. Are the roof and doors difficult to place on and off? And what about the dreary EPA fuel economy? To answer these questions at all, we lined up a second spin within the Bronco, borrowing a rare first edition model for every week of motoring in Metro Detroit. While this point served as a chance to further explore the Bronco's abilities as a daily driver, the timing, the week of the Woodward Dream Cruise, also provided an ideal opportunity to ascertain just how popular Ford's long-awaited revival would be with the overall public. Our scoring system only finds the Bronco's interior and exterior design to be an 8, but to the parents of Metro Detroit, this new vehicle is clearly a 10. From neighbors wandering over and poking around to the countless people at Ford's Woodward Avenue base where we parked the Bronco once we weren't cruising, passers-by couldn't get enough of the Bronco. It isn't that difficult to ascertain why. The boxy proportions are perfect on our two-door tester. The four-door model will unquestionably be the quantity body style, except for sheer looks, you would like to sacrifice practicality. It's all perfectly balanced, with the long hood, short wheelbase, and arrow straight beltline complementing the rounded wheel arches and restrained character lines. Our first edition adds some unique graphics, but in our opinion, this style tweak mars the Bronco's otherwise pure design. The first edition cabin treatment doesn't really work either, with black and blue leather upholstery, also available on the outer banks, clashing with too many of the Bronco's paint colors. Unless you order Area 51, Antimatter Blue, or one among the monochrome shades, you will see an unpleasant mishmash. That said, material quality on our pre-production first edition felt above on the vehicles we drove in Austin, which is certainly a win for Ford. One other point we weren't really ready to consider in Austin: how the Bronco looks stripped down. Removing the roof and doors has an undeniable effect on this SUV's aesthetic, but it isn't always a positive one. Yanking the thick doors reveals sizable sills and jambs that mess with the Bronco's lines. Unlike the Jeep Wrangler, the Bronco looks arguably worse without doors. And speaking of that roof, our tester did exhibit a number of the scaling that's afflicted early customer units, which Ford is, rightly, addressing with replacement hardtops. There's no question the Bronco may be an easier and pleasant daily driver than a comparable Jeep Wrangler. Even fitted with 35-inch tires as a part of the primary edition's standard Sasquatch package, the Ford has dramatically better on-road manners. Michigan's rough roads did elicit some poor body-on-frame manners, particularly on the larger bumps, but the effect of these imperfections on the steering and overall stability was far smaller than what you will find during a Jeep. Where an impression reverberates through the Jeep's steering rack, forcing the driving force to hold on for dear life, the Bronco simply shrugs these annoyances off. And on smooth roads, especially at interstate speeds, the Ford requires few course corrections despite its knobbly, oversized rubber. One of our prime complaints in Austin was the quantity of wind noise that crept through the removable hardtop and frameless side windows. While both the Bronco we drove within the Lone Star State and therefore the one we tested in Michigan were pre-production models, it seems Ford has managed to tighten the tolerances since our first drive in June. While wind noise remained a problem here, it had been on par with what you'd expect from a hardtop Wrangler. Road noise, thankfully, remains as hushed today because it was a couple of months back. A week within the Bronco's 10-way power front seats has us taking back our critiques from the Austin drive, Over several hundred miles and lots of hours sitting in traffic on Woodward Avenue, these chairs made a much better impression. There is a good level of support, with adequate side bolstering that kept us planted and assuaged our concerns about doors-off cornering. The seating position is sort of good too. Our concerns over the tight second row remain though. It is a knees-in-the-chest quite place, although legroom is adequate at acclaimed, but unbelievable 35.7 inches. If you propose on hauling quite one other person, buy a 4-door Bronco. Neither body style will address the Bronco's smallish cup holders though. Considering the recognition of vacuum-sealed Yeti canteens with the Bronco's target customer, it's confounding that Ford added cup holders that are just a hair too big for the relatively slender bottles. The heart and soul of the Bronco's tech suite is Sync 4, the newest version of Ford's infotainment system. Rendered on a stunning, bezel-less 12.0-inch display on the primary edition, an option on the Outer Banks and Badlands, it is a quick and clever setup that adopts a clean, minimalist aesthetic that sort of flies within the face of the Bronco's design. That inconsistency aside, Sync 4 is one among the simplest infotainment setups you'll get from a mainstream brand. The same isn't true of the Bronco's semi-digital instrument cluster, which pairs a reconfigurable 8.0-inch display with an analog speedometer that's largely useless. Offset to the left and faced with an outsized digital speedo that sits more naturally within the driver's eye line, we wish Ford would just bite the bullet and add a full digital suite here. Something just like the Mustang's 12.3-inch instrument display would also resolve the limited reconfigurability of this 8.0-inch unit. Drivers can adjust information shown on the far right of the screen, but the menus are inelegant and infrequently confusing. The sole thanks to change that info is via the rubberized buttons on the wheel, which are awkward to figure together with your thumb and, likely due to waterproofing, have a rubbery, cheap-feeling action. One tech item we'll recommend without reservation, though, is that the available Bang & Olufsen sound system. That's less because the 10-speaker setup is particularly good and more because the Bronco's standard 6-speaker unit is so underwhelming, one of the compromises that comes with removable doors. The optional speakers are bass-heavy and struggle with clarity when it involves music with major mid and high notes. And since there are not any speakers on the doors, no amount of twiddling with the balance can help the front-heavy sound. Still, they're a marked improvement over the tinny and hollow 6-speaker arrangement that comes standard. We already know the Bronco rocks when it involves slow, technical off-roading, so we focused our performance testing on real-world driving while mixing in some high-speed running on dirt roads. Our V6-powered Bronco impressed at highway speeds, with ample passing power. That's little surprise, considering the accessible output of its twin-turbocharged 2.7-liter V6, and therefore the smart behavior of the 10-speed automatic. We've sampled this pairing in other Ford products before, and it's just peachy here. Off-the-line performance may be a strong suit too. The gearbox is quick to interact and after the slightest whiff of lag, the turbos spool, and therefore the V6 revs eagerly. Handling on paved roads is superb, with the independent front suspension giving us many confidence that the Bronco will go where we would like and expect it to. Mid-corner bumps do cause some skittering, but it's noticeably less dramatic than during a Wrangler, and even bigger potholes or expansion joints rarely impact steering inputs. Stow the doors and roof and therefore the Bronco's body remains surprisingly rigid. Opening up a Wrangler is the fastest thanks to compromise the already limited handling. The Bronco though, felt nearly as stable and assured with the doors/roof off like them on. Handling remains cumbersome, but the directness and precision of the steering, even with 35-inch tires, is remarkable. At an equivalent time, the Bronco will happily bound down washboard roads at speed. You actually got to be cooking for the impacts to overwhelm the chassis ability to soak up them, especially with our tester's standard Sasquatch pack, which adds upgraded Bilstein shocks and a high-clearance suspension. Reach that time and therefore the Ford will start to maneuver around unpleasantly. The heroic steering makes corrections relatively easy though. Driver safety might sound sort of a low priority on high-performance vehicles, be they track cars or off-roaders, but we appreciate an automaker keeping them in mind. The Bronco offers a full suite of Ford Co-Pilot 360 active safety technology, and it's all standard on the primary edition. You will find full-speed adaptive control, automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, and automatic high beams. The Bronco's lane keeping assist does an admirable job, although the extent of intervention might be quite a bit higher, especially considering the massive rubber. The well-mannered ACC system performs well though, managing speed smoothly and not jumping on the brake or accelerator too aggressively when traffic conditions change. The Bronco also features a killer set of LED headlights. We just wish the automated high beams came on a touch more often. The Bronco is so heavy, boxy, and square that it makes a barn look aerodynamic. And packing a moderately powerful twin-turbocharged engine, in fact fuel economy goes to be lousy. The EPA rates the twin-turbocharged 2.7-liter V6 within the Sasquatch spec SUV at 17 miles per gallon altogether 3 cycles. You'll struggle to hit those numbers. In fact, during our week of driving, we burned through a tank of fuel briefly and saw around 15 miles per gallon over several hundred miles of driving and what felt like several hundred hours of cruising. The tiny hint of excellent news is that the EcoBoost engine runs on regular fuel, so we'll take this chance to apologize to our accounting department for filling abreast of the great stuff. Prices for the 2021 Ford Bronco start at $30,640 for the imaginatively named Bronco base. That figure includes a $1,495 destination charge, which Ford charges on all trims. Charging $2,140 in added fees is absurd, though, and rivals what many ultra-luxury brands charge for shipping. Stepping into our first edition tester would have required a complete of $60,055 had you placed an order in July 2021 when the Bronco debuted. Nowadays, these limited edition models are going for quite that. The closest analog to our test model is that the Badlands trim with the Sasquatch package. That pairing starts at $48,325 for a 2-door model. The V6 engine adds $1,895, and you will need the $5,085 Lux package to match all the equipment on the primary edition. You will be going without the graphics, the primary edition badging, and therefore the black and blue leather upholstery with this approach, but an out-the-door price of $55,600 is sort of a touch easier to swallow. Were we configuring a 2-door Bronco, that $55,600 spec covers all the bases. We'd consider downgrading from the Lux package to the High package and saving $2,295. That'd require abandoning tons of kit, though, from the upgraded sound system and heated wheel to the adaptive control, and we're unsure that's a worthwhile sacrifice. But Broncos are rarer than hen's teeth at dealers, and therefore the order banks are protected until the top of your time, so hey, a minimum of you will have many time to form up your mind. So that's it guys, comment what you think of this article and don't forget to click like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.